Hello, my name is Seth Peabody. I'm going to give a quick overview of what happened in the breakout room on eco-criticism. We talked about theory and literature courses, including both analytical and creative projects that students can do, and about doing this in courses in both German and in English. So the first big question that one of the breakout room participants had was they'd already done taught courses on Green Germany at sort of an advanced level for German majors. But now they were looking to broaden this course for a broader audience, to teach something in English that would be accessible to much of the campus. And so to kind of provide some models for this, I showed my syllabus for an environmental studies course that I offered a few years ago. I'm going to share my screen to show some of those materials. So here they are. You can get to this page by going from the Ecocriticism section of our website and then to materials. And then the one I want right now is the City Symphony Film Project. So this is a creative project I have students do within a course, and many of the materials for the course, all the materials for that project, and then the syllabus for the whole course are here. To give a little more background on what I was doing, the course connected German environmental ideas with aspects of North American environmentalism that kind of more ideas in English that a lot of the students might be familiar with. And it introduced the students to critical angles that shed new light on both the German and the North American examples. And they analyzed film, they analyzed literature from both Germany, Austria, and the United States, all of it in translation into English. And yeah, what I found was that the creative project was a great success. It really allowed students to kind of put some of the ideas they were thinking about into practice. And then I had them do analytical assignments in which they then took a step back and thought about what they had created. And that it all worked quite well. And it did seem to really do what we were talking about in terms of taking something that is interesting to kind of a narrow group of German majors and making it accessible and engaging for a broader set of students. So that was the first thing that maybe I'll go back to the website one more time just to show that the materials are all here, and I give just a quick overview of the course on the landing page for that post. So that was of interest, and the question then followed, okay, that sounds great. I'm also teaching a film course. Have you done this at all in a film course? And I haven't put any of that up on our website on environment and engagement and German studies yet, just because I'm not satisfied with the list of texts I used. But I was able to teach a class that was quite successful, well received by students, and I felt pretty good about the approach, in which if you just look at the film titles, it wasn't very different from just a standard German film survey course, ranging from expressionism up to some 21st century titles. But there were a few additional readings to kind of add an environmental focus throughout. So there were things like The Country and the City by Raymond Williams that we looked at some excerpts from that book alongside the city films and the mountain films from Germany in the 1920s and 30s. We looked at some of the same texts as in the course I just described, like The Trouble with Wilderness by William Cronin. Also some environmental history texts about the Heimat movement and other aspects of German environmental history that kind of play really well in dialogue with some of the films we were watching. So I encouraged just kind of this approach about you don't actually need to change the films all that much, because there is in fact a really strong environmental focus in a lot of German cinema. And so it's more about thinking about how to frame that and what essays or ideas can you bring in to guide students to think in terms of environmental framing for the films. So that was all the first big question about sort of outreach. And then there was a second big question, okay, what about in German? Can you do these same kind of creative projects like the City Symphony project I described above in my English language course? Can you do that in German also? And so for that, I showed a project that I assigned last year in an intermediate to advanced course that I titled, or it has a post on the Environment and Engagement in German Studies website that calls it creative environmental communication. It's a creative environmental communication project. So you can get to this also through materials and then scroll all the way down. There it is. And this was in an intermediate to advanced class. It was just a unit on kind of environmental protection, environmental thinking in Germany, had some sort of historical background. But then what we really focused on is different ways of communicating environmental ideas. And so I had students learn basic vocabulary and some key elements, key sort of factual background, but then really thought a lot about how different styles, satire, kind of creative or popular science YouTube channels, music, how all these different ways of communicating environmental ideas lead to a different impact. And then I had students create their own video, kind of imitating some of the examples we looked at. And so I had students make poetry performances that they would write a poem and then perform it in a group. I had students, a handful of students do sort of satirical performances. Others just did more straightforward, but still kind of engaging presentations on science topics. And that, sorry, that's the wrong link. That was also quite successful and wound up getting feedback from the students that showed that it really did help in terms of thinking about how can we engage differently about what is often treated as just very serious, kind of disheartening topics. And yeah, how can different types of communication have an impact that is hard to have just by kind of reiterating the same facts over and over again. So yeah, those were the two main things that we went through in the breakout group, just kind of what examples do we have? How can we kind of just find concrete ways to implement this kind of teaching in German, in English, creatively, analytically? And I'm happy to discuss any of this more if you have questions. I'm Seth Peabody at Carleton College. I think you can find my contact info below. All right, thank you.